welcome to episode 10.
Hey everybody.
1-0.
1-0. Double digits.
That's a 1 with a 0 after it. We've hit double digits.
That means we watched 9 movies and talked about them relentlessly 9 times.
If this was a child, we would still not be able to drink yet, though. And that's our goal at the end of the day.
But
right?
if he was my child, he'd be drinking already.
Oh, that's a separate issue we will deal with.
Maybe.
Please never have children.
Probably we won't.
So episode 10, we're reviewing a show I just found not too long ago.
I'm very close to it.
Yeah. But it's different. They don't review movies. They just kind of talk about it.
Talk about them.
I think the one guy, he has long hair, like a dink, and he just kind of seems very.
Looks kind of like Clark Duke. Do you know who that is? You ever seen Hot Tub Time Machine?
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Never mind. Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah. But the other guy, strikingly handsome with a fantastic fashion sense.
Really? I thought of. You ever seen that? Have you ever seen Wrong Turn?
Yes.
That's what I thought when I saw the other guy.
Huh.
See, it was just like, it's a weird off cast. Like the one guy is just really, really grumpy.
Yeah.
And the other guy is just the most.
He's really old.
God. Yeah, he's old.
He's like,
just,
he's very old for his age.
Yeah. So without further ado, let's do movie therapy.
Oh, that's what our show is.
Yeah, ironically.
Yeah. And you didn't insult me that time, which is good.
Yeah. Oh, why?
Well, I'm a sensitive boy.
If I call you half a person in this episode, does that make you a full person? 2 halves. So we're gonna do this episode a little bit differently, where usually we review, but obviously since we had a joke where you were gonna say this is a 2000. Never mind.
Well, this is a 2017 podcast filmed in Goddard, Ontario, for FauxPop Media
And Northstar.
and Northstar Pictures or
No,
Films.
it's just called Northstar.
Just Northstar.
Anyway, so we're gonna do a little bit differently. So obviously, we're not gonna review. We're gonna do a little bit of talking about our opinion on our work because we have messed up several times. But also, I think we should talk about I think we are also gonna talk about our experience making this show because it's been quite the thing. Like considering like how we first met and like how this show was born.
Yeah.
And what it has come into in 10 episodes, which it's only been 10 episodes, but it'll be nice, then later on in the future, like I think we should make some predictions of what we think is going to happen with the show.
All right. Yeah, that's neat too. Yeah, so I would start with I started working, should we say where we were working?
We'll just say a retirement home.
We were working in a retirement home together, and well, I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. I don't work there anymore, but we started talking, and we never really stopped talking about movies, and it got Tarantino. I mean, if you've watched any of our podcasts, of course, we talk about Tarantino, we talk about Star Wars, talk about Hitchcock, we talk about Kubrick. We haven't done any Kubrick movies yet, and we haven't done any Hitchcock movies yet, but in the future, which you're just talking about, we will probably be doing a lot more of those.
We will. I have some of those on the calendar, as you mentioned.
But it all started with like we were just not getting our work done. We just kept chatting. It was mostly after service, so it didn't affect any of the residents. But we just kept chatting and chatting, and it was like, you know what? If I don't figure out a way to talk to this kid at the same time as work, I'm going to have some troubles here. So I just started talking. He just followed me around.
Yeah, I think the worst night that I ever had for not getting work done was once I got done an hour late. I remember immediately going, oh, maybe I should ease up on the talking.
Need to figure out this system here.
Yeah. And then so me and you went back and forth, like mostly you, where you'd send me movies going, oh, you should watch this. And then, for example, Get Shorty and Snatch, which we've done on the show. Yep. And I gave you Grand Budapest Hotel. Yep. And we were sending these movies back and forth, like, oh, watch this. And eventually, then this year, I started working for FauxPop Media, and then I started making shows like No Topic and stuff like that. And I decided I wanted to make like a big expansion with a bunch of different podcasts, which 2 of them are being made. This one has come out, and the other one hasn't yet. And I was like, I need to come up with a co-host for the movie one, and I actually had a bunch of different people idealized because I really did not think you would do it. I was like, I'm gonna ask him, and he's gonna say no. Yeah. That's stupid. And then I was like, okay, I'll see if he wants to do the show, and I pitched you to do the show, and you immediately were like, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
Like you were game for it, and I kind of was like, oh.
Yeah.
Kind of took me about.
So let me take it from there. I got the whole idea of going and doing these shows, and camera's not looking at me, Dylan, Jeremy.
Snap, crackle.
We should also talk about the people that work behind the scenes here. We
Yeah.
got Jeremy here doing the switching. We got Mark doing some switching. Dylan's working on some stuff. I got my brother doing the VR and stuff. Yeah, I've got 2 assistants now. One of them's a little more reluctant than the other.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, I was interested in the whole experience, but I had never really checked out one of your podcasts yet. So the first one I watched was your first No Topic podcast.
Oh, that one.
And I'm not going to lie to you, I lost sleep.
Yeah.
I was like, what am I getting myself into?
Yeah.
What do I have to do? Is it this hard? Is it this difficult? So my first suggestion was, why don't I appear on No Topic? But I'll just come on in the last 10 minutes or so. I'm thinking, what am I going to talk about in an hour? And then you said, the time flies. It disappears fast. And it really does. You know, I try not to do a whole lot of ums, and got really used to it. I watched a lot of people doing podcasts, and even now when I watch podcasts that I watched before, I notice things that I never thought of before.
Well, and then with you talking about being nervous to do the timing, when I first started doing the other podcast, I was really nervous about stage fright. I was like, because I'm not, obviously I'm a teenager, so teenagers are known for being very like, oh, you know, I'm nervous for everything. And I know it's time fly. And then I told you that kind of halfish because you realize that it's been a little bit, but it's not that bad. And then when we started doing this show, all of a sudden our podcast were like an hour and a half long, and it felt like 3 minutes. Yeah. And then afterwards we'd be like, oh, we missed this.
Yeah. And then we look at the time, and it's like an hour 20 minutes, an hour 15 minutes. I felt like we needed to be a little bit shorter. A lot of podcasts are a lot shorter, but we cover a lot of ground, and we have a few viewers.
Yep.
Hopefully you're a new one.
Yeah.
And you're watching this for the first time. Go back and watch all these movies. We've actually, waiting for the show to start here, we started kind of recollecting back to the movies that we've done, the quotes, how everything kind of relates back to Star Wars and Kubrick and all the directors we mentioned before. So it's been a good run. We've done a lot of older movies, newer movies. One really, really terrible movie.
Yes, that was
not my fault, not your fault, someone else's fault.
Yes.
The hobo I like to watch movies with.
Yes, that is here with us.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then obviously, if you've watched this show since the beginning, you'll notice that we did Cape Fear, and we did The World's End as walkthroughs. So we did it like scene for scene, and then after that we decided I guess we did. Sorry, we also did 7 like that.
I think so. I think we did 7.
We did 7 because it was set up with 7 deadly sins, and then after that. I realized that they were really long, and even though we were fans of the walkthroughs, we decided it would be best to get rid of them and just kind of talk about it, because if you've never seen the movie, you're not going to watch a whole podcast
exactly.
about it.
And I felt like we were kind of stepping all over each other too as the podcast went. Like we were kind of like saying the same points, and like kind of like one would get ahead of ourselves, and then the other would interrupt, and it was just kind of like, how important is it that we get the story straight? Because I mean, you're not going to watch a podcast an hour and a half long without watching the movie first, so you know what we're talking about. I think we got rid of the spoiler alert too, because I mean, really honestly, you shouldn't be watching this if you've never seen Ghostbusters, or Cape Fear or
we
7.
We only had the spoiler alert for one episode because after the one episode, especially for the second movie, halfway through it was a spoiler, so it was like we would lose all of our viewers in like half the show, so we decided against that.
Yeah.
And there's definitely when I first. I want to know something from you. I want to know something from you.
Putting me on the spot.
I'm putting you on the spot.
One of my least favorite things.
I do it a lot, and it's really fun watching you on the spot.
Yeah.
Anyway, so when I first came up to you and said, "Hey, let's do this," and you said, "Okay," and then So just a little behind the scenes thing, because I came up with the show and then you and me tweaked it.
Yep.
So originally this show was called Bad Movie Therapy.
Yeah.
And it was gonna be us reviewing bad movies, and then it was kind of a YouTuber that I've watched since I was little. Well, not little. No, since 2012.
He's still little.
I guess since I was 13.
Yeah.
I watched a show called Bad Movies by Fanboy Flicks.
Yep.
And he does bad movies. I was like, I kind of want to do something like that. So that's where it got born out of. And then when I pitched that to you, you're like, well, why don't we just do all movies? Because we'd like to do good movies. And I very originally, I was like, I don't think that'd be entertaining. Just us sitting here talking about how great movies are. And then suddenly I got a lot of people that are movie fans saying that they like the show. And I was like, oh, okay, well, this is fun to do. A lot of people do like it. And like we have a mixed bag. Like I try to be negative every show. Just so we have a little bit diversity.
I think you'd find if you were positive, I would try and find a negative. It's just it's really not my style. I love movies so much that even a bad movie you can kind of pick out some good things and stuff. So I was kind of like thinking it'd be nice to just cover the whole movie and not just new movies or super old movies. I mean, Mystery Science Theater kind of does that with bad movies.
Mystery Science Theater is a great show.
And and honestly, I never even watched it before until last night. I saw the whole thing. I saw we got this roving camera. This is the behind the scenes.
This is behind the scenes look.
Yeah, so you got the phone here. Check the Leaf score, which they are out now. Usually there'd be notes on here. Got the Star Wars drink holder.
I like how, so just like to clear something up, these two screens are side things, so they don't constantly play what the outfeed is. That's the outfeed, the main big screen.
Yeah.
Just so people know. It's like behind the scenes and behind the scenes. Behind the scenes-ception.
Yeah.
That's...
I had no idea he was going to do that.
Yeah, all of a sudden, I saw it on the small screens, and I was like, oh, okay, it's now a big screen.
Super cool what you can do in here. And this is half the reason, Like I knew Mark and Randall, and I knew Jeremy, and I knew that I would know some people here. I didn't know you as well. I got to know you quite a bit, and our banter back and forth, you being 17, me being 39, it's a definitely big perspective between. There's Mark.
Mark was there.
You like to call him your owner. He's our owner.
He's not the owner. He is our mother.
He's our mother.
He's my mother.
Not sure you know how mothers work.
He is my mother, and Randall is my father. Yeah. They don't know that yet, though. Oh God, that got bright.
This is the worst way for them to find out.
Yeah. Apparently on a podcast we have children together.
Did you get Dylan? Did you take a picture of Dylan over here?
Oh, Dylan's over there.
He's my assistant and
Captain
great
Boomerang.
friend. Story about Dylan. He just came here with me one night when we were filming the podcast, and he hasn't left.
Yeah.
So
he's our.
They seem to enjoy him. He's a charming young fella.
Captain Boomerang.
And ladies, he's single.
Ladies.
You're still single, right? Yep. Okay. Yeah, he
Don't want to give out false information.
He is, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. If he's not single, he'll get single for the right girl.
Yeah. So I have a question for you.
Yes. Okay. You never really did ask me the question.
No, I didn't. We got off topic.
Yeah. Nothing like Ty kind of veering off to the left and then into the ditch and into the lake and then back out of the lake, out of the ditch, back on the road. So what question did you want to ask me?
Okay. So when I first came up to you and said, hey, let's do the show, I'm trying to now piece back together what this question was because
I think you may have asked me, actually.
So when I first came up to you and said, hey, this is the show I want to do, did you think it'd be hard, with these movies, like watching this movie each week and doing a whole episode on it?
No.
No?
At no point. I was super excited to do it for a reason because I do it all the time.
Yeah.
I don't take notes the way I do now.
Mm-hmm.
I don't review other reviews. I don't look into the IMDb page and take notes to things. In fact, we were just looking at my notes from the previous podcast,
they were so long.
and I used to have a lot of notes. Now I just kind of just have point form.
Yeah.
I know what I'm talking about. Like the movies that I pick, I'm really into, and I've watched over and over again. It's nice to have a medium to come and do it. And so I kind of knew that how I was going to tackle it. I've seen other YouTube channels of people talking about movies and TV and stuff. And the funny thing about that is, I was just thinking this the other day, was, YouTube is such a forum for what you want. Yeah. And people are creatures of habit. But I find that with a lot of people in here, we all watch different stuff. Like I tend to watch a lot of, I don't even want to say their names, right? I mean, I could. Yeah. Like I watch a lot of Cracked videos.
Oh, I know Cracked.
I loved Cracked. I like Cinema Sins.
You like Cracked?
I haven't tried it yet.
Wait. So this brings up another question that I have.
Yeah.
By the way, just quick little thing. If you watching these videos realize that usually when I say I have a question, Derrick will then make fun of me. The reason why is because in this show and off this show, usually when I have a question, I will say I have a question before I ask it. So I have a question.
Okay. Jeremy?
It surprises me.
Ty has a question. You just asked one.
Yeah, Jeremy's shocked. So it surprises me that you watch CinemaSins. Like,
oh really?
Well, okay, this is not the first time I heard of it. Like when the first time you told me that you watched CinemaSins, and the reason I found it shocking was because when I watch a movie, I'm like, I'm there to find, like I love watching movies and I love movies so much, but I get a little bit of joy, not the first time I watch it, but usually the second time, of watching it and just trying to find things that are wrong. I find a joy in that because, I don't know, maybe I'm a sadist.
So you feel like CinemaSins is kind of like my Cliff Notes?
Well, it's just...
something that you would look for anyway?
It's just no. For me, that's like how I enjoy movies a lot of the time. But you usually, and the reason that our different dynamics work on this show is because usually when you watch movies, you're like, this is amazing. Look how great this part was done. Yeah. So I find it weird that you watch a channel that sole purpose is to just find terrible things in great movies.
Well, like the thing is it can't be one way or the other, right? It can't be just one thing. Or
one way or the other?
Yeah, like it really just, it can't be just one thing. It's mostly, I won't watch every video that CinemaSins put out.
Oh, I do.
But like if they are putting out, like they'll have a movie, like, I'm trying to think of what an example was. They did a Thunderball, right?
Yeah.
Is that the word, Thunderball?
Yeah, Thunderball.
They did Thunderball. And
by far I honestly think out of all the ones we've done, that was the hardest one to do.
It was, and watching it, like I watched it with the hobo I watch movies with, and we were kind of like having a hard time getting through it. Like it was kind of like just a hard chew for a movie, and we were just cruising YouTube, and he goes, "Oh, there's CinemaSins on it," and we just skipped straight from the movie to the CinemaSins, and it became more enjoyable because we could really find the points that made it funny. I didn't have the time to do what you do with movies. I do work, you know, I was working 3 jobs at that point. So, I mean, getting to the point of things, really just want to have something to talk about.
I watch 2 movies every night because I have it.
You still do? I remember you talking about that the first episode.
I've cut down because I got a girlfriend.
Oh, okay.
Now a lot of times I don't have time, but I still
not blaming you, Blue. Not blaming you.
I am. I am blaming you, Blue. Anyway, but
I'm sure there's fun things to do other than watch movies when you have a girlfriend. I don't know. You're 17.
Are you getting at something?
No, not at all.
Yeah? Okay.
No.
Sorry, Mom and Dad.
I find myself, because I work so much, I end up watching TV shows. But a lot of TV shows are either based on movies or they're just like movies. You know, like TV series, like Netflix allows you to really do that. So
the 2 worst movies I had to watch, like, actually, I'll say 3.
Worst or hardest to?
Hardest to watch for different reasons, and 2 of them stem from the exact same thing. I'm a very sentimental person. I find I like a lot of the things when I watch it, I go, oh, that's my childhood, which is gonna be hard when we do a Star Wars movie, being hard on that because that was my childhood. But we watched when we did Thunderball. When I went to watch it, I can't go into this thinking this is what I watched this as a child. I can't think of all the memories I had watching this. I just sit down and think, let me find crappy things about it, which is kind of hard. And like, in a smaller note, when we did Snatch, it was just kind of, because when I first put on the movie, I was like, this is kind of the movie that started this whole thing. And it was just kind of a way I was like, I feel bad for criticizing it because without it,
yeah,
we wouldn't have this show, really.
well, I'm sure there would be other movies.
Yeah, but it would have, that was really what kickstarted our friendship.
Yeah.
And then the hardest one by far was definitely White Zombie, just because, oh God, I tried watching it twice, and each time I fell asleep.
Yeah.
It was brutal.
Yeah.
And I'm a person that loves black and white movies. Like, I watch Hitchcock movies all the time.
Yeah.
I just can't get through it.
Yeah, it was not done very well. But it was kind of funny to see what the limitations were, because, I mean, we mostly deal in text messages.
Yeah.
Ty's really great at texting.
Oh, I'm terrible with it.
He texts a lot, and there's not a whole lot of sense in them sometimes. So
I'm a teenager, which usually a lot of people immediately think, like, I've met people doing business and stuff like that where I start messaging them, and they immediately think he's a teenager, he's texts all the time. I prefer a good phone call, because I don't have time to put it, like, I just don't really want to put in the effort to text.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of people, they get angry at me because when I get a message and I send you one back, you have to understand that I typed in, barely really looked at it, just kind of, that's probably it, and press send.
Yep.
And then the person will message me back on, you butchered that. And I'm like, I don't really care.
Yeah.
If you really want to talk to me, here's my phone number, call me. It's like, it's easier that way.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm definitely text related, just because I am busy, and it's nice to be able to send a message, be able to continue doing what I'm doing, and then come back to it if I need to. And I never hassle people about texting me back anymore. It's just like, it's so arbitrary. Even if they're not telling you the truth, they're quite possibly too busy.
I'm not going to go after you if you don't message me right back.
So basically what I was saying was usually we'll throw movies at each other, and like say it's my pick. And what's awesome is when you send me that text and it says, what movie's next week? I'm like, the world of possibilities of movies that I own, movies I don't own, movies that I really want to see, and for like the excuse to see it, to analyze it. And I think I like picking movies that I've never seen before, because it's a fresh take on it. But I also love picking my favorite movies, and I still have tons of favorite movies. And I find that with the choosing, it's just like when you pick it, you're always like, okay. You know, it's never like an argument. And same thing when you tell me a movie, I'm just like, that's interesting. You know, I believe in the future. Can I talk about a movie you pitched in the future?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's a Hitchcock movie.
Oh yeah.
And you've obviously talked about Hitchcock every single episode. We talk about it.
Do we?
Yeah, at one point or another, for sure.
Hitchcock.
For sure.
And his little gobbleneck.
Yeah. So, I mean, I've never seen really too many, and plus I've never really had the chance to even like be super analyzing it and looking at it and either picking it apart or finding something that's absolutely amazing. So I'm really looking forward to watching those kinds of movies. And when you throw a movie at me, I always want to know why. Why'd you pick that movie? Yeah. But a lot of times I don't really have a reason that I picked a movie either. Like White Zombie. Yeah.
Usually, one thing I like about this show is especially near the beginning, because by the way, we live in Canada, obviously, and if you don't know,
might not be so obvious.
If you don't pay attention to Canadian news, there was a store here named HMV. HMV was basically my Valhalla. I would say. I love that place, and then they decided they were going to close, and I was like, oh my god, I used to use that store especially the first couple episodes where it was open.
Yeah.
When I was for example, with The World's End, I was like, oh, this is a really good movie. I guess I have to buy it for work. I have to buy it for work. It's not personal.
Yeah.
And then when they announced they were closing, I was like, I can't do that no more. So I went there and I was like, I need to find every classic that's still here, just so I can buy it, so I have it in my thing. And then so I was like, oh, we're gonna do a Bond movie, so that's why we did Thunderball, because it was the only one they had left.
Do you stream movies? No, I don't mean illegally. I mean, do you iTunes and Apple TV rent movies on there or anything like that?
This brings up an interesting segue because you said not legally. Just so you know, one big problem I've had doing this show, and so I've made one of my morals for probably 3 years now, maybe it might have been 2. I'm sure my parents will be like, no, it's only been this long, and I'm sure my friends will also tell me that it's not been this long. That I made it like part of my moral compass, where I'm like, I do not want to ever watch a movie illegally ever again.
Mm-hmm.
If I didn't purchase it or someone else did not purchase it, I will not watch it.
Yeah.
And
Well, what I'm talking about is renting movies like off iTunes. I use Google Play, and I rent movies all the time, and I find it's just so much more convenient, and you've got a quality product. Like I've seen people with Android boxes in the movies and stuff, and it's just like, if the mouth doesn't match the audio, I am out of it immediately. And like, not just for that reason, it's absolutely illegal, and you're not feeding anybody's mouth by watching free movies.
The
like
one part and the one part is doing this show, especially like the first one where we did Cape Fear. I was like, how am I gonna watch this? It's like, I was kind of befuddled because I was like, I don't have the movie. I was like, and when I talked to people I know about it, they said, well, just watch it online. It's online. Popcorn Time has it. I'm like, no. And I quickly thought, maybe this is gonna be really hard to continue that moral compass. And luckily, Netflix had my back and released it on Netflix that
three
day.
times, a movie that we've been talking about. One we haven't reviewed yet, but 3 times. It was Train to Busan. That I wanted to buy, and I happened to find myself at a used movie store, and they had it there, and I bought it for $14. The next day, it was on Netflix. Goon. When we were watching Goon, it came on Netflix the Sunday before we did the podcast. So, I mean, obviously we did Goon for a reason, so Netflix probably had it on for a reason too, because of the sequel. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah. And I think a lot of my choices are, I find it's either me going, I really like this movie, I really want to do it, or, okay, this is what's coming on this week. Like, again, with Goon, I chose Goon because Goon 2 was coming out.
Yeah. I picked Snatch because there's a TV series on Crave TV, Crackle TV, or whatever, with it, and I was super into it, the whole idea.
I did The World's End, half because it's one of my favorite comedies of all time, and also because Edgar Wright's new movie, Baby Driver, was about to be announced. I thought it was supposed to be just announced, but it took like a couple more months before it to be announced. I guess it wasn't like trailers didn't come out until recently.
Yeah. And I did watch that trailer, by the way. Sure. And I didn't know why you'd asked me to watch it. I generally stay away from trailers of movies that I'm not, that I don't know much about, because, I mean, these days trailers give you way too much information, especially when it comes to comedy movies. You see all the funny things. I generally laugh at stuff that is meant to laugh at anyway, but I try and stay away from trailers. But, it came up on there, and you had mentioned it, and I was like, okay. And at the end, it's like director Edgar Wright, and I was like, oh, that's... I'm glad I watched the trailer for the way it was, but yeah.
I would like to point... I have a question.
Mm-hmm. You have a question, do you? He does.
Did you watch the American or the international version?
I don't know.
Okay, so if you're a fan of movies and you haven't watched the Baby Driver trailer and you're going to watch it, as a big fan of Edgar Wright,
watch the international trailer?
Watch the international one. The one for North America sucks. It's pop music in it. Yeah. It's like some of the lines are really iffy. Yeah. But in the international trailer, it's Radar Love for the background. And it's like, oh, this is great. Yeah. And just like it's funny where it has to be funny. Neither of the trailers tells you really about the story. Like, you understand what it's going to be about. Yeah. The international trailer, though, just kind of does more for showing you that it's a character. Like, when I first heard about there was going to be a movie called, Edgar Wright was doing a new movie, and I was like, oh, sweet. He goes, it's going to be called Baby Driver. And I'm like, oh? And it's like, his name is Baby. I'm like, that's stupid.
Okay, so speaking of that, we'll talk about our favorite director for a little while here. Well, I think we're probably going to do a whole episode about a bunch of his movies. We'll definitely review some of his movies for sure. But my question is what was the first movie that you heard of that wasn't out yet? Like, let's say, what was ever in the theater of Tarantino's? Like,
the first time I ever heard a movie in the theater.
Was it Inglourious Bastards?
No, I have an embarrassing story.
Oh, okay.
Hateful Eight.
Really?
Yeah.
So that's fine. I think it's super late to get into Tarantino. But
I was always into Quentin Tarantino, but I've never been really into media. Okay. I've always been really into movies, so it was more or less like I saw all of Quentin Tarantino's movies actually from my aunt. Because my aunt owns a cottage, and she we have no internet up there, so she buys movies. So she has like all of Quentin Tarantino's movies, and that's how I saw Django for the first time. Actually, Inglourious Bastards.
He called it Django.
First time, I finally got it right.
There's a little throwback.
And then Inglourious Bastards, I actually saw for the first time. The same way I watched my very first horror film, which, if you know me, is a big deal. Which was my dad was watching it, except for my brother was watching the very first horror film I ever saw. Yeah. And they told me I can't watch it. So
which totally made you want to watch it, right?
Just kind of snuck my head over and looked, and I went, oh, this is a movie that looks pretty good. And then the last movie that I watched of his was Death Proof, which is one of my favorite movies of all time. It's my favorite movie by Quentin Tarantino by far. And half the reason is because
what's the half the reason?
May I give you a little bit of a history lesson first? Do you know what a grindhouse is?
Well, watch this. He's doing the thing where he goes in the ditch and the lake and. Yeah. All right.
So do you know what a grindhouse is?
Of course I know what a grindhouse is.
For people that don't know what a grindhouse is, so back when TV and stuff like that was becoming big, a lot of movie theaters were having trouble rivaling it because you're at home. So what movie theaters came up with was they were pumped out really cheap, not really, like movies really quickly.
Yeah, cheaply made.
Yeah, and these were put out in grindhouses, and a lot of the times these movies weren't dealt with very much care, which is why they were missing some frames. They were scratched up a lot. For people that don't know, some famous movies that were grindhouse films. One that I know that's very big was Mad Max was a grindhouse film. Yep. So like these great movies were just thrown out there, and Quentin Tarantino was like loved these as a kid and decided to do an homage to it by doing putting two different of the grindhouse genre, two different parts of it, which was the car chase movie and the horror film, and put it together into this masterpiece. And the reason I love it is because A, it's like an homage to classic cinema, which is I love classic cinema. And B, as a horror film fan, I also see it as an homage to classic horror. Yeah. And just like the idea of it, the way it's shot is, I'm not a car guy, but I love Blues Brothers, American Graffiti, like just like the whole feel of it is amazing. And in the movie, he does it great. And so just it's always been my favorite film because of the feel of it.
That took a long time.
It did for me to just say the feel of it.
Yeah, so like I agree. Robert Rodriguez actually did the other movie. You know that, right? Okay. Okay. So like I consider, even before they did that movie together, I always consider Robert Rodriguez as the Mexican Tarantino. The Mexican Tarantino. Like I loved his movies too. I remember seeing Once Upon a Time in Mexico, Desperado, the stuff that he did. Even the Spy Kids movies weren't too bad.
He made the Spy Kids movie?
Yeah, he did the Spy Kids movie.
Did he do Machete Kills?
Yep. Yeah. Those are kind of like Grindhouse films too. Like I think Machete was one of the trailers in Grindhouse.
And then he ended up making it into a movie.
Yeah, but I actually got a chance to go to the theater and watch that Grindhouse the way it was, and it was awesome to sit in the theater like that. The intermission that was in between and all that. It was a lot of fun. Thinking of that's how people went to movies. I didn't really know about the competition with TV, but it makes sense. Yeah. But my Tarantino movie, going back to the question I asked you, the movie that I remember I saw in high school, people were wearing Mr. Pink shirts. Oh, okay. It would just be a picture of Steve Buscemi with the pink tie, and I was like, "What is that? What is that?" It's like, "Oh, Reservoir Dogs. You have to see it." And it's like super violent movie and stuff. And I remember watching it for the first time with some friends, and what I remember of it was that it's a perfect movie. There isn't a wasted scene. I don't think I ever saw a movie that had so everything just made sense. It flowed, and before you know it, it was over.
Wait, I thought you meant in theater.
Oh no! What I'm saying is this is what made me excited about Tarantino. But in the theater, I mean, Pulp Fiction came out after that, and that was winning Oscars. So I was starting to really take note to who this Tarantino guy was. So I definitely checked it out, and it was when I was in college. Jackie Brown was coming out around Christmas. And that's when I kind of got into Elmore Leonard and found out the stuff that he writes, and the characters in Jackie Brown were super big, and like Blaxploitation, I hope I'm saying that right. That was kind of like a Grindhouse era too, the 70s films. So he did that in an awesome style. So after that, it was just like, when's the next one coming out? And you obviously you saw the trailer, saw the promotion, saw all that stuff. Like Inglourious Basterds, I saw 3 times in the theater. I saw Death Proof. Well, I saw Grindhouse once. But the only movie that I hadn't seen in the theater since was Hateful Eight.
So if we're talking about
I just never got around to it.
If we're talking about the first Quentin Tarantino movie I ever saw, was Kill Bill.
Oh yeah.
And I saw it with my cousins, and it was kind of like I forget how old I was, and it was kind of like, shh, don't tell your mom. We're gonna watch Kill Bill. Nice. And I remember seeing the first Kill Bill and going, this is the coolest crap ever. And it was just kind of like, this is amazing. A little Easter egg for our viewers at home, and maybe you can answer me this. Can you tell me an Easter egg we have about how? So we originally the first time we ever started talking about film was about Quentin Tarantino. We found out we both like Quentin Tarantino. Yeah. So I put a little bit of an Easter egg in our stuff about Quentin Tarantino. Can you tell me what it is?
Is it the logo?
Yes. Can you tell me what the logo is a reference to?
Reservoir Dogs.
Yes. How? How is it a reference to Reservoir Dogs?
Because they wear ties.
Okay, there you go.
And your name's Ty.
Yes.
So.
Thank you.
Is that it? What do I win? Please say Jeremy's underwear. Please
Jeremy's
say Jeremy's underwear.
You get Jeremy's underwear.
Yes! Yes! Why is he so excited about it? Anyway, that's a little bit of the background humor that we use in here. We've talked about Tarantino. You want to talk about Hitchcock a little bit?
I would love to talk about Hitchcock.
You can't.
Oh. Okay.
Oh, you just won't. That's awesome.
Okay. So you started off your talk about Quentin Tarantino by asking me what was my first Quentin Tarantino movie I ever saw.
And you said it was Kill Bill.
Kill Bill. What was the first Hitchcock movie you ever saw?
I haven't seen any of them.
You haven't seen any?
No. I mean, I've maybe seen bits of Psycho. Okay.
Well.
But no, I never really, just wasn't a thing that happened. Okay. Just like Bond movies, So I know, I'm losing credibility here fast, eh? So I'm not going to lie to you. I just haven't seen it. I am excited to check it out, though.
When I was really young, I'd go downstairs.
Like 2 years ago.
Yes. No. I would go downstairs and I'd watch TV. And I was always really into old shows like Twilight Zone. And one show that I absolutely loved was Alfred Hitchcock Presents. Yep. And I remember I watched that show for a while, and I was like, oh, this is great. Like I remember watching A Man from Rio and stuff like that. I think this is the greatest thing, which Quentin Tarantino does a reference to in the Four Rooms. So I started watching these, and I was like, oh, that's great. And then I remember one of my teachers, I remember talking to them about it, like, oh, I like this show. And they said, oh, that's by Alfred Hitchcock. I'm like, yeah. And if I wish I was me now, because I would have been like, no crap, it's in the title. But I remember her telling me that, and I was like, oh, okay. I didn't really know what that meant. And then she's like, oh, he's a famous director. And then after that, I watched, I think the first movie I watched after that was Psycho, and then North by Northwest, and then I watched Vertigo, and so on and so forth. And now I think there's only a couple of his lesser known films I've watched. I haven't watched Family Plot, which is it was his last film, which I'm a little bit upset I haven't seen.
All over my head.
I became really obsessed with it, and then when I decided I wanted to be a director when I grew up, I got really into Hitchcock. I was like, Hitchcock's I love his work. Yeah. And just ever since, now when I picture what a director should look like, I found so much about director Hitchcock's behind the scenes thing. Yep. I found out that he had a drinking problem. Did you know that Psycho he completely funded himself? Because no studio would take it because during that time it was a horror film. Yeah. And no one wanted to pick up a horror film. Mm-hmm. He was actually asked to do the original James Bond. He turned it down because right before that he did North by Northwest. He was a great director. He did great things, and I've just always been a huge fan of him. Yeah. And my favorite film by him, just because he's also very influenced me by the fact that, now when I make small films at school and stuff like that, and all of them are mysteries because of the stuff he did. Like my favorite movie that he did was Strangers on a Train, which we will watch at some point in this series, because I just like the premise. Like two guys sit down in a train together. And one guy's like, I hate my wife. The other guy's like, and I feel I hate my dad. I get a bunch of money, and they go back and forth. And the guy goes, well, what if we got rid of each other? And the guy goes, no, that's weird. But the other guy thinks that they're doing it, so he kills his wife, and then it's really cool. Like the idea that misunderstanding.
Spoiler.
Yeah, spoiler. If you haven't seen that movie by now,
I haven't.
I
just told you before that.
It's not a spoiler. It happens halfway through the movie. It's not a spoiler.
No, it's fine. And I'm really excited to check it out and see what you see. And if I have a chance to pick it apart, then I'm going to, right? I mean, that's what this is all about.
I was actually going to bring it in today for you to take home, but I forgot it. I can maybe drop it off.
Yes, I'll just stream it on my Android box. No, just kidding.
And I will kick you in the tooth. So now that I went on a bit.
Okay, so we're running close to the time here. I'm not sure whether we have a limit, but I think we should get into what you think the next 10 episodes, what we'll be talking about in episode 20.
So by the way, we have not.
Or should we talk further about 20, 30?
We haven't planned to 20. I think the farthest we planned to, we originally planned to 15, but I don't even think that now because things got messed up with a special thing that's happening in a couple episodes.
Yep.
So we have up to 13 planned out.
Okay.
I really hope, just because there's a lot of movies that we're going to watch throughout these while, and there's a lot of movies I think I want to watch badly. I really hope that by the time we get to 20 that we've watched a Kubrick and Hitchcock movie.
Yeah, for sure.
We'll watch a Hitchcock movie, I know that for sure.
Yeah, I do want to check that out.
A good movie that we should check out, as it's one of my favorite Kubrick movies, is Clockwork Orange. It's good. Mm-hmm. It's very good.
It's like I said, it's not that I'm not aware of these movies. I know about these characters. I think
I've seen Clockwork Orange.
I don't know it as well as you probably do. I've seen it, but it was under a haze.
Under a haze.
If you know what I mean.
Sandwiches.
Younger, moving picnic tables.
I really like the idea, like where most people.
Exactly 4:20. Yeah.
Okay. I really like the idea that, like, how most shows is like, oh, it's youngin' doesn't know anything but newer movies, and the old guys sitting there going like, I only remember the old stuff. Yeah. I'm sitting here going, oh, Hitchcock and Kubrick were great. And you're sitting there going,
well, I could say, well, you mean, like we've talked about this in other podcasts too. It's like I have a mutual respect for those kinds of directors, and the fact that you like them so much.
I'm a hipster, that's why.
Yeah, millennials.
You're a douchebag.
They do what they do. Yeah,
it's the hat.
Yeah, see, there he goes insulting me.
Yep. It's like
the weather here is amazing. This is exactly how I feel about the weather. It's awesome. Went golfing yesterday. It's great. But let me go back to what we're talking about the podcast. Yeah. We're talking about what we're going to do next, or what's the future looking like. I was going when you said that, I was like, yeah, I do want to watch a Kubrick movie. I want to have more of a detailed interest in Hitchcock. And when we watch one, I'll read everything about the director, I'll find out all that other stuff, and I'm really excited to do that. There was something else I was thinking of, but...
Can I tell you a quick thing about Hitchcock?
Yeah,
so
please.
Hitchcock did pranks around the studios. Mm-hmm. I think my favorite prank I ever heard of is, so he bet camera guy that he couldn't stay in a studio all night, like a completely abandoned studio, chained to a camera. The guy took the bet. Hitchcock then gave him... I think it was a drink. It could have been like a sandwich or something like that with laxatives in it before he got chained. So they gave him that, chained him to the camera, and left for the night. The next day they came back, and he's sitting there in a puddle of his own feces, crying. And he was just kind of an a-hole that way. But he did these things all the time, and people used to laugh. Like he put...
humor was different then.
Yeah. I might do that to you. Ty, you. I don't think there's anything that's heavy enough for you to not be able to move it.
Yeah, well, that and I crap in my pants anyway.
Oh, okay.
Just said that on YouTube. And iTunes and whatever.
Another thing I hope that we do before episode 20 is maybe we'll have a special guest on at some point. Maybe.
That would be fun.
It would be fun.
Yep.
You know, it'd be cool if you could come on and do 1 or 2 episodes. You know, maybe a Quentin Tarantino movie. You know, you never know. Maybe one that we mentioned in this episode.
Yeah, he's not really a good actor, folks.
What are you talking about?
Ty is kind of like alluding to something, but
Maybe.
we'll let that be a surprise
Yeah,
till
we'll
the
let it be a
next time. I still can't think of what I was going to say about the podcast.
We have 14 minutes left. Do you have anything else you want to say before we end off?
No.
Okay. So, what would you rate the podcast?
This podcast?
Yeah.
Or
the whole series?
From the beginning to the end?
Yeah.
I think I think the lower I rate it, the higher we have to go.
Okay.
You know, stop thinking here, start getting up here.
Okay.
Right? So I'm going to say, I don't want to offend you, but
You're going to.
4
4? Okay, that's better than what I'm going to do.
out of 10.
4 out of 10 what?
4 out of 10 snappy little markers.
Snappy Little Mark. We are not sponsored by... Oh, never mind. These aren't whatever.
Oh, I mean snappy because there was one
Oh.
episode I just kept doing this
Oh, yeah.
and just
I
tapping
would-
it, and you can just hear it in the microphone. Terrible.
I would rate this podcast either a 1 out of 10 questions or a 1 out of 10 shitty fedores. One of the two.
This isn't a shitty fedora.
No, I'm sorry. I can't even fight that. Like,
It is good. It's good. Looks great.
yeah. Good job. Well, anyway.
Your mom bought this for me.
Oh.
Is that a tip?
Okay.
Just kidding, Dana.
Gonna leave.
Anyway, folks,
Thank you for
now
watching
that
the show.
now that it's my podcast again, you can subscribe to the stuff that's at the bottom. We're not going to go on and on about it. Just subscribe to the stuff. Subscribe to the channel FauxPop. Subscribe to Northstar. Come back and see us comment on the page. And sorry.
Yeah, you can comment with what you want to do. And you can, we got our Twitter handlers things.
Yep.
I don't think we have the Twitter for this show in the description.
Yeah.
It's @_movie therapy. Go follow us. It's always good to have followers. And, you know, just like the show. Keep coming back. We missed you.
Thank
we
you.
miss the people that don't. So, yeah. See you next week.
All right. Thanks,
with
Reg.
A special thing.
Peace.